Good evening, everybody. How's it going? Dirty Jesus. We got a special caller guest interview this evening. Dr. David Lay, author of Ethical Porn for Dicks, A Man's Guide to Responsible Viewing Pleasure. So I would like my pleasure to be more responsibly, crafted and then considered and then acted upon and then apologized for later. I'd like all of me should be more responsible. So hopefully that call is gonna get going in, I don't know, 6 minutes. We did not have a chance to have our test call before I went live. So I'm gonna do my final preparations, do some vedetic breathing. Well, you guys enjoy an artist named Total Giovanni and the very lovely tune Human Animal. I'm thinking of all of you. All of you are in my thoughts. That is true. That is what I know of as true. Okay. Oh, sorry. You're supposed to let songs end better. While we are waiting for Dr. David Lay to telephone in, you know what? I told you once, kick me off Twitter. Like, I spent money on things to buy fake numbers for you, Twitter, and then you kicked me off. So, all of these mediums of public relations that are internet-based can really suck a dick, an ethical dick, from my perspective. So, Dr. David Lay has written, this is his extended intro. Please don't kick your whiskey. Oh, my God. Oh, that's not his website. Okay. David Lay Dix. Oh, shit. Okay, so we're gonna go to Psychology Today first. So Dr. David Lay writes a lot about, or I think is a sex addiction PhD psychologist. And so one aspect, obviously, of sexuality is the compunction to voyeuristically participate in, I guess, like something that you wouldn't generally do. Or a type of person that you aren't necessarily, but watching porn like allows you to put on a costume for a moment while you masturbate. And like masturbation while watching porn is interesting. Like, is it just like physical friction, or is there some sort of mentality whereby the male watching heterosexual porn pretends that their fist is a vagina? Like, what's the psychology of porn watching of that variety? David Lay, if you are watching and now regretting that you agreed to call in, shut up. Just call in. Okay. Dr. David Lay is a clinical psychologist in practice in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He earned his bachelor's degree in philosophy from Ole Miss. All right, we are philosophy brothers, so I might have added a question on my list of questions. Like, who's your favorite philosopher? Wink. I would like to know that. And his master's and doctoral degree in clinical psychology from the University of New Mexico. Dr. Lay is licensed in New Mexico and North Carolina. Is it similar to insurance companies having some sort of tax haven in Rhode Island or Connecticut, I think it's Connecticut. So is there something that allows you to do some research under the radar in North Carolina? Otherwise, why North Carolina? And has provided clinical and consultative services in numerous other states. He is the executive director of New Mexico Solutions, a large outpatient medical, mental health, and substance abuse program in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Dr. Lay has been treating sexuality issues throughout his career. He first began treating perpetrators and victims of sexual abuse. So I like that he is treating perpetrators because they're not monsters. Like, there are a couple monsters in every container of people. There are monsters everywhere, but it's the Nazi argument. Just like, don't call someone a Nazi because Nazis are complex human beings who had to make difficult decisions in times of war. Whereas, like, the Nazi you're referring to is almost this like state of pure evil that we've decided to, as the victors, recreate sort of the history of a complex issue. So it's good that Dr. Lay lists perpetrators first. I don't know. I see that as having good Good tidings. Okay, but then he expanded his approach to include the fostering and promotion of healthy sexuality. That's good because it's probably more fun to hang around sexually healthy people than it is the deeply abused. And awareness of a wide range of normative sexual behaviors. I don't know what you mean. Insatiable Wives is his first book and won a silver medal in the Forward Magazine Book of the Year contest for 2009. Dr. Lay wrote Insatiable Wives following 2 years of interviews with couples around the country. His controversial second book, The Myth of Sex Addiction, was released in March 2012, challenging the concept of sexual addiction and exploring a different model of male sexuality. The Myth of Sex Addiction triggered a firestorm of a debate, allowing people to finally challenge the media hype of this pseudo-disorder. Well, did it challenge it? No, I don't think anybody learns anything from the media. We're just bombarded constantly. So I think people reading articles in the New York Times about the myth of sex addiction, don't learn anything. I don't think anything changes. His new book, which I read, Ethical Porn for Dicks, A Man's Guide to Responsible Viewing Pleasure, is due out in summer-fall 2016. Dr. Lay may be contacted via email through the Psychology Today website. Well, that's a nice way to do it. Okay, what's happening? You're on my line. No, you're not. Yeah, the phone. Oh, hang on. Sorry. It's a one-minute band here. Okay. So he says he's on the line because sometimes my phone does this thing where it puts people on hold, but inconsistently so. I tested it with 2 different numbers and it came through fine. And now, of course, it isn't. But while we're here, maybe I should put Dr. David Lay on the line or something. I'll put that in the description. Here he comes. Hello, this is Dirty Jesus. Who am I talking to?
Hey, it's David.
Hey, David Lay, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Perhaps as a start, I don't know how well you know my show or my cult following. Generally, psychologists have lots of questions for me. I'm just not sure if you need anything clarified for you. I'm here at any time to also receive questions.
Okay.
If that was clear.
No problem.
Awesome.
I think it's amusing that your call-in line has 666 in it. Was that intentional?
It has 6 sixes in it. I've got 2 sets of 666. One of them is broken up by the 866. Yeah.
Very clever.
For me, religion is a costume you get to wear. But then, if you read the Bible long enough, thinking it's a joke, interesting stuff appears.
I can see
if you know
that.
what I mean. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
You say you are not a minister or something. I don't think anywhere in the Bible it says that porn is immoral. I don't think. I know there's cave drawings from X amount of time, but for some reason, I don't think there's anything about pornography in the Bible, or at least that I found.
Nah, not that I'm aware of. But how's this sound? And then we can jump in. We can talk, and then I'll have to jump off and get back into this contract I'm wrapping up.
Oh, certainly. Well, here's the deal. Your audio is fine and my audio is fine. So
okay.
The interview has already begun.
All right, cool.
Excellent. I guess here's my first question that I sort of half answered by reading your introduction. But so my question is, what got you into porn? And I guess maybe I'll shift that question a little bit and be you're being a vocal advocate for revolutionary ways of thinking about porn. And I'm just what's the impulse that got you to that place? There's my question.
I see a tremendous number of people, predominantly men, who have been just incredibly shamed for sexual issues, and lately it is porn. People who come in, who have looked at porn, once in the past month, but have been told that they're addicted to it, or that looking at it is going to have these tremendous, huge effects on their lives. In the research, one of the things that we're seeing is that, porn does have an impact, but it doesn't have an impact that is universal, that affects everybody the same way, nor that is larger than other issues, things like, education, economy, access to health care, poverty. And I think those issues are really, really important. Unfortunately, what I see is that our society, our media, parents, and therapists get distracted. Porn is like this sexy, shiny object that pulls our attention away from addressing the more important issues in people's lives.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us as clinicians, for us as a society, to keep our eye on the ball. And porn and blaming porn for all these things kind of takes us away from that.
So let me, like one of the threads in your book that I noticed is that it's really a self-help book. It's because oftentimes you explain the misconceptions about porn, but then you'll jump and be like, but you have to think about all the circumstances around. Porn is just a small medium and a small component of what comprises you. So I like your book was structured in a really good way for those who might be feeling that guilt or shame, which would just screw them up in other ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has largely become kind of my real passion over the past few years, is really attacking and addressing the shame that is what ultimately is hurting people. And unfortunately, when we blame porn, when we blame sex, when we blame same-sex desires, or wanting sex more than your partner does, inevitably we end up shaming people. And the shame is what leads to people keeping secrets. The shame is what leads to people not talking about their needs or understanding their needs. And really, the shame is what causes depression, anxiety, self-destructive kinds of behaviors. And I think we need to start addressing that and recognize, unfortunately, the times when we use shame and fear to try to control other people's behavior, and that is what ultimately hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So side question. As someone who creates a structure of empathy and support and education for those who would generally be marginalized as the perpetrators, or in this case, the voyeurs of pornography, what do you think about this witch hunt? Like, the great thing for me as an up-and-comer who's never assaulted anybody, there are 17 million empty spots in Hollywood right now. How can we apply a contemporary standard to what happened in the 70s or 80s when everything was different? Like, it boggles me that we're literally having a Salem witch hunt right now. Like, where do you sit on this?
I think it's hard, and it's not just in this. I mean, you mentioned pornography in the Bible, and as you said, there really isn't any reference to pornography in the Bible. And one of the important things we have to understand about the Bible's stance on sexuality is that much of it was written during times in Roman Empire when there was a lot of, kind of sexually exploitive and kind of damaging sexual behaviors going on. Mm-hmm. And many of the prohibitions about sex within the Bible are really against that kind of selfish, exploitive, damaging kind of sexual behaviors. But they've been interpreted today in these very different kinds of ways. I mean, I read this marvelous thing the other day.
Oh, that's a great point.
I read this thing about the song, Baby It's Cold Outside. And people keep saying, it's a date rape song. It's about a guy trying to get a girl drunk so he can have sex with her. Oh. And there's these folks, these historians, music historians, who said, no, look, this was written at a time when
it was cold outside.
Well, yeah, and a girl had to pretend to be drunk so that she could enjoy sex. And the joke was that he knew and she knew that she wasn't drunk, and this was just cover so that she could.
Oh my
And
word.
I think it's really important that we look at these kinds of opportunities and experiences, the Hollywood kind of stuff, and understand, yeah, these were different times. We want to be better than that. What lessons can we learn from that? I think it'd be really important to ask some of these guys, this was how you behaved 10 or 15, 20 years ago, and you stopped. Why did you stop? And how did you learn how to stop? And how do you feel about that behavior now? Would you do it differently if you could go back? Those are the messages that I think we should be talking about.
Yeah,
Instead, we're just throwing everybody out and running over with the truck.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is really, it's a shame, and it's going on right now, is we don't have any role models. The males especially, but in general, we don't have role models of how to behave responsibly with sex. When sexuality becomes public, it's usually because somebody's in trouble for it or being shamed for it. So as a result, we're not ever teaching people how to be mindful or thoughtful or responsible with their sexual desires and behaviors. And then when they get in trouble, we call them an addict, or we call them a harasser, or we call them a sex offender, and we lock them up. We throw away the key.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a working model.
Well, yeah, two pieces that jumped out, the word gentleman, and then in the conclusion of your description or your definition for ethics, as it stands for the book, you talked about the need to do everything with integrity. And that was my concern when I read that, is I sort of felt like there's no system or there's no place where anyone can learn those lessons anymore. Like, we're so distracted by our phones that we've lost that fundamental passing down of social conduct that we have done we've done for millennia. So to me, that's a sort of hole in your definition of ethics, was that I don't see how there's a blueprint for integrity anymore. That's my concern. And it seems like we're heading towards treating people more erratically, which is upsetting.
Yeah, treatment, especially around these issues, it looks like the game of whack-a-mole. We just hit whatever problem pops up, but we never address the real issues. I mean, I'm pretty well known as kind of the critic of the sex addiction industry, which is a great example of this. Where if I go to see my doctor and I'm sneezing, my doctor doesn't say I've got a sneezing addiction or I've got a sneezing disorder. Instead, my doctor tries to figure out what the real issue is. Nobody's really looking at what the real issues are anymore. We're not talking about causality and context and etiology of these things. Mm-hmm. It's just whack-a-mole and move on.
Yeah. Okay, listen, let me jump to the meat and potatoes. I think I've honed, I have several questions, but I've honed it down to one core essence. And that question is, can a voyeur be ethical? And can porn as a medium, so because you talk about this in the book, that porn's really just the empty vessel for things that you're not sure you shouldn't like. There's, you have weird morality about it, but it's just a container for whatever content. So my can either of those, well, let me put it this way. I only felt truly emancipated from any sort of pornography addiction the day I put my dick on the internet by choice to feel that level of empowerment and sharing. And ever since then, I feel like I've acquired an ethic, but I think an ethic is going to be difficult to achieve if people are voyeurs. So maybe that was maybe more my statement than a question, but for me, that's the, because a lot of your discussion of ethics is quantitative. It's like, pay for your porn. I completely agree from an economic standpoint that one should pay for porn, but I'm not sure if those elements are ethical. So then I just love the word ethics. So just I love it. So just please tell me what you think.
Yeah. Well, my original degree is in philosophy, actually, and I
Who's your favorite philosopher?
Kierkegaard.
Love it.
Yeah, but I really focused a lot on the idea of existential ethics, and the idea of committing to these principles because you believe in them, not because you have been told they're the right thing. And, what we're talking about today in terms of sexual health is really sexual ethics. And we're identifying you can be sexually healthy even if you're engaging in kind of off-the-wall, relatively uncommon sorts of sexual behaviors, so long as you are addressing issues of consent, negotiation, mutuality, safety, shared values, honesty. Now, if you're a voyeur, it's a long day. If you're a voyeur,
Oh no, I liked how you said it. I liked how you said it.
Yeah. You're watching somebody who wants to be watched, like on the webcamming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then that is as ethical as it can be. If you go to a swingers club or you go to a sex club and you watch people who are there to be watched and you respect their boundaries and, if somebody tells you, hey, you're creeping me out, why don't you move on? And you do, that's ethical.
Okay, hold on. Let me jump in because you just fused a webcamming model then with a sort of in-club. So I just want to suggest that voyeurism, there's very little respect on the internet. So the voyeurism that occurs at a strip club, for example, I think because you have eye contact and a physical pheromonal connection, I just feel like it's harder to negotiate boundaries on the internet, and therefore I see that as a less safe space, even though the webcam girls, they choose to sign on. I agree with you on that end. I'm just concerned with how people act on the internet.
One of the things I know, as I've gotten to know a lot of webcamming performers and stuff like that, they oftentimes have somebody, sometimes a volunteer or a friend, who will monitor the kind of chat room.
Their pimp,
and
yes.
And they ask those, or their protector or their friend or their colleague, they ask those folks to enforce boundaries and enforce kind of social expectations. And the interesting thing is, it creates these micro cultures or these micro communities, where in many cases it's not that pimp, so to speak, but it is the other guys who are saying, hey, dude, I like watching this girl. I think she's really sexy. And when you call her these awful names or when you treat her like shit, it pisses me off. Go away or shut up. And
that's not a very empathetic. Those people are just perpetrators, right? So that moderator sounds like he's being very thuggish. Whereas from your earlier argument, we should be more empathetic towards those people. I don't know.
I will confess.
I waver on my empathy.
Yeah, well, I do too. I mean, Good. I've got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Me too. I do heavy amounts of martial arts, and if somebody acts as a dick, well, I'm going to treat them like a dick.
Yeah, you're going to suck it? Sorry, what? I'm joking. That was funny. That was meant to be a joke.
I hear you.
Sorry.
So,
I feel like that joke might have crossed the line. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Thanks.
What line?
I think that, again, what we need to do is move towards, identifying what are the values that we believe in, and how do we support them. And frankly, we have gone to war as a country to defend our values, sometimes appropriately and sometimes not. I think that we can be more effective when we think about the values that we're trying to follow. And unfortunately, right now, I think our country, I'm concerned. I see us elevating certain values above others.
Can I just help you for a second? Sorry, yeah. My understanding of the basics of religion are that the notion of a nation state or a country that you think of in those sort of terms that you are is super idolatrous. Sure. So I would say everyone else is going insane and nationalizing around the world, right? I think the best thing libertarian-minded folk can do is denationalize, even just in spirit. Just realize that voice is no longer yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just
So
live
I
on
mean,
we live on this awesome planet that we've covered with plastic, and now we got to figure out how to
yeah,
unfuck it up.
yeah,
Plastic. Isn't
absolutely.
that funny that The Graduate nailed it? You remember that scene when he
Yeah,
talks about
get into
the
plastic. It's the
fuck
future.
off. See, Dustin Hoffman. We should kill him for that, as well as
Right.
for the thing he did. Do you think we should kill Harvey Weinstein as a clinical psychologist? My opinion is that he's the absolute root of evil. Like the fact that no people didn't talk up about it, yeah, that's really shitty too. But they're more victims, right? It's the Stockholm syndrome, so I forgive that. But Harvey Weinstein should
Yeah,
be publicly garroted, publicly
I, you know,
and pubically.
we have to take some responsibility for this. We as a society who's been consuming, that entertainment, media, we are as responsible for his actions as we are responsible for the NFL, exploiting poor black men and giving them concussions. Um,
They get paid to get
so
concussions. I
that they
guess
can
that's the
engage in our
core.
entertainment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I, as long as we are supporting exploitation in our society, whether it's in Hollywood or pornography or NFL, I don't think anybody is innocent and not culpable to say, hey, I don't want to consume that kind of stuff. I mean, years
Hold on.
ago. Go ahead.
Well, here's sorry. I just want to jump into this. I feel like voyeurism leads to objectification, and once you have objectification, it's easy to have exploitation because you no longer value it as the person. You've made it an object. So to me, voyeurism continues to be a big problem, and watching porn is voyeurism. So
Well, but there again, objectification is not inherently a negative thing.
really, okay.
We use objectification in very healthy ways, oftentimes through our life. We teach doctors and surgeons to objectify their patients so that they can treat them more objectively. Um, Objectification is like all things human. It is good and bad. It has its
Okay.
positives and its weaknesses. And I think that, again, that kind of thinking is how we get into this kind of reactionary whack-a-mole kind of approach
Mm-hmm.
of, well, let's get rid of that because it's bad. Well, it's not all bad. Let's talk about the other elements, and let's talk about this stuff is not simple, and it's complicated. It's multiply determined.
Yeah.
The one of the things I say often is the intervention or response to a problem must be as complex as the problem itself. And the issues of pornography, the issues of sexual harassment in Hollywood, these are very complicated problems. The solution has to be equally complex.
Okay, so here's the solution I just thought up. So the world's lacking gentlemen, and I would posit the role models, males in pornography, like those weird dicked guys who use bathmates and are just oddly shaped people. They have no, like, they're not personalities, they have no soul. And that's not just by design. I think that's like, we could easily change that. So I'm going to become the gentleman pornographer. And we'll, because for my purposes, because I know you basically say like adults can watch like really hardcore porn, but teens shouldn't. I think everything on the internet should be held to a 10-year-old standard, as in a 10-year-old individual could be watching the craziest shit. And I know you say it doesn't like change the physics of your brain, but neuroplasticity, I support most of their logic. I think so. I think in a socio development standpoint, porn has a huge impact on how the brain develops. So,
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not quite so simple. I mean,
okay.
it's going to have a 10-year-old growing up in an unhealthy family with high levels of conflict,
Oh
with
fuck.
substance
Okay.
abuse in the parents, in poverty with bad education. That kid is going to be more impacted by that negative pornography. Whereas, a more sophisticated 10-year-old who has the ability to go to his parents and say, hey, I saw this and it really freaked me out, is not going to be as impacted. So it's, the thing is that, there's a small percentage of men when they watch, violent pornography, it makes them worse, and it makes them more likely to hurt other people. But it's not the pornography really that does it. It is their attitudes towards women, for instance, viewing women as things to be grabbed because they can, because
But
they're
why
rich
do
and
any of
powerful.
us get to watch? Like, why do any of us get to watch that? Here's the thing: like, you've got all the more complex arguments, but pornography is an industry, and I'd like to point out, because of Pornhub, it's a monopoly. We should be breaking that up. But everyone likes to keep their hands off porn. So my problem, shit, I lost my thought. Damn. Go ahead. Sorry, I get too excited.
Yeah, I've just got a minute or two left.
Oh, good, man.
The porn aggregators are definitely a problem because they are exploiting porn producers and porn performers.
They're the one taking the money away. Like, if you want to, like,
yeah,
it's not
I mean,
ethics. Like, they're economically disadvantaging tons of people who actually need that fucking money. And then Pornhub advertises with all this weird shit. Like, oh.
Right.
And they put me on gay Pornhub. They put me on gay Pornhub, which is fun. Like, I don't care. Whatever.
It's the equivalent of music piracy. And people are not okay with musicians being exploited, but they are okay with porn performers being exploited. And I think that, again, is one of those values we need to look at. I think that ultimately, the thing I'll really kind of leave you with is that we have to kind of stop treating sex and pornography as though it is inherently separate and different from any other human behavior. Now, at a moral level and at a spiritual level, I believe that it probably is, or that even if it isn't, I want it to be. However, as a scientist and as a clinician, I have to view it in the same lens as all other human behaviors and treat it the same way. And unfortunately, we've allowed a lot of those moral kind of assumptions to intrude into our clinical thinking and into our public policy.
So I'll leave you, I completely agree. I'll leave you with this. Do you want to come do a book signing at AVN this year at my booth? You can sell as many copies of the book as you want. I don't care. I don't know, or you've done this before. It's no fun. I don't care.
I really appreciate the invitation. I've talked with AVN a couple of times. It just never kind of worked out for it to be right for me.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, no, I am a much better person for this conversation, and I will hold it up. Ethical Porn for Dicks. It is not... It says doctor on it, but it's like it's written for everyone who might feel some guilt and shame in their lives, to help them realize the broader context in which that guilt and shame is but a small component, right?
Yep, exactly.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right, you're typing. Good luck with that RFP.
Thanks, man.
I'll see you down the road, David.
Sounds good. Nice talking to you, man.
Peace,
Bye-bye.
brother. Okay, bye. Sorry, I'm shivering like crazy. All right, we're going to have to just have an out song here. And thank you, Dr. David Lay. He's good at times when you're asking yourself, when you fail to challenge your own assumptions. That's what I like about him. Like, he's really good at finding those moments where you didn't challenge yourself enough and you've got bad preconceptions underlying your argument. So, kids, this is why you should stay in school, don't do drugs, watch ethical pornography, and go to graduate school and get a PhD, is because your brain is formed really well. Thank you, David. All right. Yeah, I am, like, absolutely shivering. Okay. I forgot what I'm doing. Okay. So this is 3:02. Like, the song is 3 minutes and 2 seconds. And it is by someone named Clutchy Hopkins. And so we're going to play that. We're going to play this show out. I might come back on later. I lose the internet tomorrow in the barn. Like, I think I can rig something else up, so I plan to do more, but like my move date changed and I forgot to tell the internet people. So maybe if they come tomorrow, I'll send them away or something. I don't know. Because I will miss this. I will miss this whole contextual environment a great deal. I will find a new contextual environment as quickly as I possibly can. I will not be far. I will be here. I come on Twitter. It's Dirty Jesus, not. I could get real Dirty Jesus too. Oh yeah, there's like so many good options. But like, every option you've taken thus far up to this one has been the right one, is an important way to think about it. Okay, the shiver is taking control of my torso. Perhaps I'll see you soon. Do you like my backlay? I worked hard on that.
stating my working definition at very best. I am not the best rapper. Nonetheless, I'm just stunting like my daddy though, watching Mighty Boosh doing lunges on the patio. I am not the best rapper. I got some problems, various and sundry. My name should be Cornelius. I should farm mung beans. I am not the best rapper. I wear a mustache like old rusted coal, paired with a Coogee sweater from Cliff Huxtable. I am not the best rapper. Most days I sorta wanna be dead. Rap albums couldn't afford me quarter water, pita bread. I am not the best rapper. I am not the best rapper.
Wait up! You can't stop with a handwrite on your fan site, cause defending my beliefs is how I learn how to dance fight. No, I'm not the best rapper. No, I'm not the best rapper. This is a thought experiment out of the shark tummy, so tell your dad's bridge partners mired in dark money that I'm not the best rapper or rap whore to a brother of a raptor who's excitable on cash poor. Less kimye, more kimchi. Less interplay, more synergy. No, I'm not the best rapper. In fact, I'm your least favorite rapper. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. Oops. You probably don't have a playing card, cause in 1997 the turn of football really too red. Not no one's favorite rap dude. Let's go.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know that compares to pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know that compares to pure imagination. Living there, you truly wish to be.
Mr. President? Are you listening, Mr. President? Open your ears.
fight, I need my mind, I need my chi. Then I need my calm, I need my chill, I need my chi. Prayer for a start, I do forget she remind me. Panoramic vision with the info you see. Info you see. Tools and the opportunity. Affect your cruising out too. How you gonna make it to the league? Learn tools and if you do, find a crew that's about to dream. All doing calculations, how you do my G. Stay calm in the pressure. They hype up in emotions. You massive lesson. My mind is an ocean. Then let it get infected. I believe you. Despite the oppression. Like a flight, don't catch it. Ride your bike, pop beatings. Flight spike, who gets it? Kind of remind when they see me. True times for the OGs. The one that gave real blessings. Oh me, oh me, oh me, oh my. No time to press it. Sit down when you need to. Don't rush this essence. Boy, love this answer. Why you hate this question? Don't lose your mind in time. No one help you get it. So keep yourself in tune and listen when it's hectic. I need my fight, I need my mind, I need my chi. Then I need my calm, I need my chill, I need my chi. Prayer before I start, I didn't forget she remind me. Panoramic vision with the info you receive. I need my fight, I need my mind, I need my chi. Then I need my calm, I need my chill, I need my chi. Prayer before I start, I didn't forget she remind me. Panoramic vision with the info you receive. Info you receive.
What do you want from me? I have nothing left to give. What would you like to see? A broken heart, please spare me. 'Cause I could be sad and cry, and my brother would wonder why. You don't realize or understand what it meant when you pushed away my hand. My hand. Where do you stand with me? Lord knows, Lord knows. Where would you like to be in my life? Please tell me. 'Cause I could be sad and cry, and my brother would wonder why. You don't realize that I understand what it meant when you pushed away my hand. My hand. I still love you anyway. you, baby. I still love you anyway, but it's no use, no use, no use. What do you want from me? I told you 1,000 times I have nothing left to give. And what do you need from me? Nothing, so please leave and let me live. 'Cause I could be sad and cry, and my brother would wonder why. You don't realize I understand what it meant when you took away my hand. My